This conference will now be recorded.
Hi friends, good morning. In this business intelligence master program, so this is our project 2 session. In this project 2, Edureka project 2, we will learn. So here we won't have any theory, directly we are going to see the practical. So how to copy data from REST API to blob storage using Azuredatafactory. So once we have data in the blob storage, immediately I will run my Databricks notebook activity. That Databricks notebook activity is going to read data from blob storage and it will process data. Once it processes this data, it will write my output or process data into another folder in the same storage. Okay, if my Databricks notebook wants to read data from blob storage and it has to process, then output it has to write back to the same storage, it needs to have a connection. So how we are going to establish connection between Azure Databricks and our blob storage by using mount. Okay, I'm going to create a, I'm going to attach a blob storage to Azure Databricks. I will tell you, we are going to see how you can mount this blob storage on Azure Databricks. So once you mount it, by using this mount point, you can able to read the data. So once you read the data, meaning you have data available, you can transform this data as per your requirement. And once you transformed, once you process this data, you can write this data back into some other storage, or if you want to write this data into same storage, okay, you can able to write the data into same storage. But in our this particular lab, we will write data into same storage in a different folder. Okay, you'll let's imagine blob storage has two folders, input and output. You will read data from input and you will write data into output. Okay, who is going to do these entire things will be done by your Edureka Okay, so Edureka is going to call Databricks notebook. Databricks notebook is going to read data from input folder and it will process this data, it will write to output folder. Okay, now finally, once you have data in your output folder, so whatever data you have in output folder, that is processed data. So this processed data, transform data, I want to load it into Azure Synapse using Azuredatafactory polybase technology. So we will see how you can load this data into Azure Synapse using Azuredatafactory polybase technology. So these are the things that we are going to learn. So here I am going to do everything automation. How you can achieve automation, I will show you. Next, how to use Azuredatafactory triggers. So triggers we already have. Even yesterday also we have one deep dive on event triggers, right? So completely we learned. So when we got our 0 bytes file, how you can stop running your pipeline when you got some file which is having some data, how you can pick this file immediately based on events, how you can process it. Okay, whenever some file deleted from your blob storage v2, how you can run your pipeline. Even along with all of these, we also have seen from the Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, if some file is loaded into Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, how you can run pipeline, because this event trigger supports two storages, that is storage account v2 and Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So all those things we discussed yesterday itself. Okay. Now come here, overview. In this overview, you can see that my first pipeline, you will see I am going to copy data from REST API to blob storage. You need to have very clear. You are fetching data, your source data you are getting from REST API. Once you fetch data from REST API, you are loading this data into blob storage. So I'm going to schedule this trigger. I'm going to schedule this trigger in such a way that I want to run this particular pipeline daily once. Okay, something like that. Next. So what happens is this particular REST API is loaded data into blob storage. Once this copy activity succeeded, what it means, you have successfully loaded data into blob storage. Whenever you load some data into blob storage, immediately my second pipeline will run. What is my second pipeline? This pipeline will have a Databricks notebook activity. This pipeline will respond based on the event. Based on event. What is that event? Whenever it sees any file in this blob storage, okay, immediately it is going to run Databricks notebook pipeline again. So this Databricks notebook pipeline is going to read data from input folder. Inside blob storage will have an input folder. From input folder, Databricks notebook will read the data, then output it will write back to the output folder in your blob storage. Now whenever I see any file in my output folder, immediately I am going to run a synapse using polybase technology, meaning this processed data output, whatever data I have in my output folder, that data I will take it and load it into Azure Synapse by using polybase technology. So here it is going to respond based on the events. So this particular pipeline is going to respond based on the event. What is that event? Whenever input folder received any data, immediately this particular pipeline will run. So when this pipeline is going to run, whenever this event identifies output folder in your blob storage received any data, immediately this pipeline is going to run. So these two are event. You can see whenever input folder got files, it is going to run. Whenever output folder got files, then this pipeline is going to run. But this is going to be scheduled trigger daily once. So maybe let's imagine when you have 1 MB of data, it will finish in 1 minute. Let's think like this. Okay, when you have 1 terabyte of data, it may take one hour also. So in that case, what you are, it's okay, you cannot schedule this Databricks notebook pipeline and load data into Synapse using polybase pipeline. Why you cannot schedule these two pipeline? Because you don't know what time complete data will load it into blob storage. That's why what we are doing is you just schedule this trigger once you load entire data from REST API to blob storage. When blob is received data, that particular event will identify and it will trigger your Databricks notebook pipeline. Okay, again, once Databricks notebook processing is completed, it will write data into output folder. Whenever I see any data in output, so that event will trigger this particular pipeline Azure Synapse. Okay, load data into Azure Synapse pipeline will trigger. So this is the overview diagram. Now you can see required resources. We need Azure Data Factory, blob storage v2, Azure Databricks, Azure Synapse. Because Azure Data Factory is the ultimate service that we need to do anything, right? So next blob storage v2. So where we are going to store our REST API data and processed data, all the like raw data and the processed data we will have here. So final data we are going to store it in a Azure Synapse. Okay, to store our final data we are using Azure Synapse, and Azure Databricks is basically for processing your data. Maybe you're transforming your data, whatever is there from in input folder, that input folder data you want to read and you want to transform it. Okay, so these are the required resources. So next REST API details also we need. Why? Because once you want to move data from REST API to blob storage v2, you need to have a REST API details as well. Okay, these are the required resources. Now let's go and do the demo. For this, just log in into your portal.azure.com. Click on Cloud Pandit at the rate of filter. Let me enter your password. Okay, I logged in into my account. So now first resource that is important is data factory. Search for data factories. You can see click on data factories. Click add to create the data factory. So resource group name you can say cloud funded project 2-RG. Click OK. So this I want to launch it in east to west, and this storage name you can say cloud funded storage v2. Okay, this name is available. You can see version 2 I'm using. Oh sorry, it's not a storage, it's EDF. We are cloud funded EDF v2. So this name is available. Click with configuration. So I want to configure Git later, but as part of our training we already have seen how to configure it. Click networking, leave them blank. Tags, if you want to give any key value you can give, otherwise review plus create directly. Validation passed, you can create it. Click create. Now, so what happens, this Azure Data Factory will be submitting deployment details. So once you deploy, like once you submit, this ADF will create. Come to second tab, let's open again portal. In this particular tab, I will open our second required resource, that is our storage account. Let's create storage account. Click on storage account. Click add here. So resource group name is already we created, so you can use the existing resource group. And storage name, I will give cloud funded storage v2. And you can see it is in east to west. I'm selecting v2. Okay, it must be v2 if you want to trigger some events. Okay, see v2, click review plus create. Click now. Okay, I submitted my deployment details for my storage account. Also, let me open again portal.azure.com. Here I will create my third resource that is Azure Databricks. Click on Azure Databricks. If you are not able to find it here, you can search here directly Azure. You know, right? Databricks. You can say Databricks. You will get it. Okay, just click on that. You will come here. Click add to create Azure Databricks. So resource group, I'm selecting the existing one. Workspace name is cloud funded AD or like Azure Databricks ADB workspace. Next, this should be, I want to launch it in East US. So select East US. Okay, this is like standard. If you want to go with premium, you can go with premium. You will get a role-based access control. Next, click networking. Okay, so I don't have my own virtual network, so I want to launch it in a default virtual network. Click tags, leave them blank. If you want to give key value for something, you can do. Otherwise, leave them blank. Click view first. Validation succeeded, created. Now come to your fourth tab. Portal.azure.com. So in fourth tab, what is the remaining service that we want? We want now Azure Synapse. Okay, let's create Azure Synapse. How to search for Azure Synapse? You can see Synapse. If you search, you can see Synapse, formerly known as SPLDW. Click on that. Let's click add to create the Azure Synapse Analytics. To create, you can select this particular resource group. Then SQL cool name. SQL cool name, you can say cloud funded Synapse. Okay, it is available. Let's create a server. Cloud funded server admin name. Let me give my name. Password I'm giving here. Confirm password. Okay, so I want to launch everything in East US. Select East US. Click OK. So I don't want to use these many units, so I will reduce the performance units, because if you like, let's say thousands, if you take per hour approximately, you need to make 1,000 INR. So I don't want that. I will just reduce to 1,000 or like 100 C. Then I just need to pay 99 rupees per hour. Click apply. Click networking, leave everything blank. So here I don't want any data for my practice or whatever. If you want some data for practice, you can select SAMP. You will get it. All these things we discussed. Okay. Tax review plus create. Click create. So this is how we have created all the 4 services. Now we need to think. So first pipeline, our first pipeline is to move data from REST API into blob storage. Okay, REST API to blob storage. Now REST, how to get the REST API details? So come to next tab, you can say REST API sample sample REST API online. You just say sample REST API online. Okay, you can see here JSON placeholder.ipcode.com. Just click on that, come down. You'll see there are a lot of posts. Okay, so if you want to make a REST API call by using get method. You can use this, or post method. You can use put method, patch, delete. Okay, whatever. So based on your requirement, you need to use. So get means we want to like fetch some data and load it into blob store. For that, I'm going to use this particular get. Okay, just to click on this post. So this is the link you need, okay, to access all this data, to load all this data into a blob store. This is the URL you need. So whenever you are connecting from online, so whenever you are connecting to REST APIs online, so for these REST APIs, you will not have any username and password, but in your real time, you will see some username and password. Okay, you'll have basic or service principal. So different ways you can connect to your REST API, but it's anonymous. Without credentials, I will access this data because these are online APIs. Okay, fine. So you have now your source first pipeline. Let's focus only on first pipeline. My first pipeline is to fetch data from this particular REST API, load it into blob storage. Go to blob storage, go to resource. Okay, click on containers, click on container. This is basically, I can say, global. So this is my root container, global. It should be small letters. Okay, click here. So it's a global. This is my container. Inside that, what happens is I will create input and output folders. So now you need to think I have a global container. Okay, global is, this is my container. In this container, I am going to maintain two folders. One is input, second one is output folder. I will maintain output folder. Now what happens is my REST API, what I am trying to do is just to focus on only this. In global container I have created, this is actually folder. Okay, folder name is input. So this folder name will be created by my Azure Data Factory dynamically. Inside this input folder, I am going to load my REST API data. Whatever data I'm fetching from REST API, my actual source data will be available here in a CSV format. Okay, I will load my source data in CSV format. You need to understand that. You will have a CSV format files. Okay, you will have data here. Now you can see global container I created. Okay, if you want to see that, come out. You can see global container I created, but input folder I have not created. That will be created by my Azure Data Factory. Now you have your source REST API details. Now you know where to load once you fetch data from REST API. Now go to Azure Data Factory. Click on go to resource. Click on author and monitor tab. So first thing that I wanted to do is I want to connect to REST API, that is my source, as well as I need to connect to the blob storage, that is my target sync. Okay, come to manage tab. You can see linked services. Click new. Okay, blob storage selected. Click continue. Sorry, yeah, you can connect to any source. Let's connect to blob connection. I connected to blob. So we know integration runtime. We also install self-hosted integration runtime. All those things we have done. Now select your storage name. Your storage is storage v2. Okay, select storage v2. Test connection. And successfully connected. Click here. So let's click again. New linked service. Here select blob. Oh, sorry. This is going to be your REST API connection. Now, so I connected to blob. Now I need to connect to the REST API. Click REST. Click continue. This is my REST connection. REST API connection. So come here. Select your base URL. Where is your base URL? You can come here. This is going to be your base URL. Copy this. Come here, and then you can paste base URL. Then authentication. As I said, in your real time, you may authenticate by using Azure Active Directory, Service Principal, Manage Identity, or Basic. But I want to go with anonymous without entering username and password because it's basically so online API, right? So that's why I no need to authenticate. Just test connection. Connection successful created. So now I have two connection, REST API connection, blob connection. Come to Author tab. So I will go a little bit fast because we already done all these things as part of our training. Just click data set, new data set. So this is basically REST. Okay, REST API, select REST API. Okay, so here this is basically a REST data set, REST API data set. Okay, so just select the linked service. That's all you need to do. It is going to give you data. Okay, this URL itself will give you data. But let's click new data set. Whatever data you are going to get by using this data set, where you want to load. I need to create a new data set for the blob storage. I want to load it as a CSV as discussed. This is what this is going to be a blob data set. A blob data set for REST API. Okay, just use blob connection. Now browse it. You can see I'm selecting global. Inside global, I don't have subfolders. But if you look at here, I said I have created a global container, but input folder I will create it from ADF. How we will create from ADF? Click on your input. You just type your input. File name I cannot. I don't want to give file name. So let it be. Okay. File name can be anything. Next. First row as header. Yes. So as we are seeing, whenever you are reading CSV files or writing CSV files from Spark or ADF, the mandatory thing is we need to say header equal to true or first row as header. So these options we need to enable. So then it will actually identify your first row is headers. Otherwise, what happens? It will give default headers, and the actual headers will go into your data. This we have seen practical. Okay, click none now. Click OK. So now you have clarity, right? So this is our first two data sets ready. Let's create a pipeline. This pipeline is basically for REST API to blob. Okay. This is basically REST API to blob. Just a drag copy activity here. And in this copy activity, what is your source? My source is REST API. What is your sink? What is your sink? Your sink is blob. So now I want to trigger this particular pipeline based on a schedule trigger. Just click add trigger, new / edit trigger. Schedule trigger means based on particular time. Click new. This is schedule trigger. REST API schedule trigger. Okay. Next. So schedule, select schedule. Okay. Now the time is 1:56. Like UTC. I want to run this pipeline at maybe 1:56. I want to run at 2 o'clock. Let's say 2 o'clock. Maybe I can say 1 minute. 2 o'clock 1 minute. 2 o'clock 1 minute AM. Okay. Just click OK. So exactly at this time, my pipeline will run. This particular pipeline, which pipeline? REST API to blob pipeline will run. It will fetch all data from REST API and load it into blob storage. Next. So how you want to run this particular pipeline? So I don't want to run every 15 minutes. Maybe I want to run daily once or something. Okay, you just put daily once I want to run. And here if you have any other timings, you can able to put. Okay. Next, end date. Do you have any end date? Example, I want to run daily ones, right? So today is 19th, so I want to run till next month 5th. So something like that. If you want to put some end date, you can able to put the end date on date. See, end date you can tell. So no end means it's unlimited. Daily it will continue to execute. So do you want to activate this trigger immediately? Yes, this will be activated immediately. Click OK. Click publish all. So as I discussed, just to publish this. So what happens is this pipeline is going to run at 2:01 AM UTC. Okay, next point is in your Azure Data Factory, you have created some trigger which is active, but you have not attached the pipeline. So this may be the interview question people may ask. Is it possible to keep a trigger active, but this trigger I'm not attaching to any pipeline? Is it possible? Yesterday we discussed. Is it possible, Raju sir? Other people who ever attended yesterday session. Is it possible to keep a trigger active without attaching to a pipeline? Can you speak out, friends? Sushmita,
Yeah,
very
yeah.
good. Okay, very good.
No.
Very good, very good. Thank you all. So we cannot keep a trigger active, okay, when you are not attaching to a pipeline. Okay, you will get a error if you try to do that. You have to, if you are not using that trigger in pipeline, you must be, you need to inactive such type of triggers. So that may be the interview question people may ask. So let me check what is the current time. So 1:59 a.m. So I want to check this time with seconds. Can we go with seconds? Click on current UCT. So 59. Still we need to wait like 1.5 minutes. Let's wait for 1.5 minutes. But meanwhile, if anybody have any questions, so please let me know. Srinath clear. Raju sir, Samir, Shivkumar, Shushmita, Surya. Can you confirm, friends? Everybody is clear? Anybody have any questions here?
Clear, sir. Thank you.
Very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So now you have seen, right? So we have connected to SQL Server and fetch data, and we connected to file system to fetch data. Now we are connecting to REST API to fetch data. So in real time, you may not get all these services, but people may ask, because some clients, they will connect to the different sources, and some clients, they will have only SQL Server, something like that. Depends. It depends on client. They may connect and fetch data from different sources, or you may see only single source for your client. But anyhow, we are learning all the things so that you will have more clarity on all of those things. Okay, just we need to wait for 30 more seconds. Now what will happen is our pipeline will run. Let's go to storage. You see, I am inside global container, but inside global container, there is no folder called input, and there is no files here. Okay. Now once our pipeline ran, then it will fetch data from our REST API to blob storage. Let's go to monitor to monitor this particular pipeline run. Yeah, now the time is reached 2:1. So it will see REST API schedule trigger. So who is triggered this particular pipeline? REST API schedule trigger. So we have created a schedule trigger for this REST API pipeline. So that particular trigger is running this pipeline. Okay, refresh this. So go inside this pipeline, you will see a copy activity. This is pipeline. You need to go inside to see activities as well. So this is queued. Okay, basically copy activity, why copy activities will be queued is in backend, the servers are not available. Okay. So one more thing is, whenever you are creating any service, if you are using free trial subscription, try to use East US data center. Why? The reason is East US data center will have more resources, and you can use most of the services from East US. Suppose if you are selecting any other region, then you will have some limitations. So in this example, we have seen, so as part of our Azure Databricks sessions, while you are creating Azure Databricks workspace, if you are trying to create in any other regions apart from East US, it will tell, so you have only 2 cores or 3 cores, right? So, but if you select East US, it said there are 12 cores. So even same thing we have observed when we were creating Azure HD inside. Azure HD inside that basically in any other region we will have 2 cores or something. But here, like in if you select East US, we got some 12 cores. Okay, see, pipeline succeeded. So once pipeline is succeeded, come here, go to storage account, click on refresh. See input folder created. Inside input folder, you can able to see the .csv file or not. You can see whether it's a .csv file or not. You see it's not a .csv. Why it is coming .txt? but I selected like CSV, but still it is coming .txt. Why? What is the reason? So for that, come to like pipeline. I will tell you the reason is go to author tab, select this copy data activity. So sync side, you selected like CSV only, but you can see you are saying file extension, it is .txt. You need to change your to .txt to .csv import, and I want to reschedule my pipeline. I want to change my pipeline timing now. Okay, before you change the timing, let's go here and delete the data which you have loaded previously. Let me delete the data which I have loaded previously. This data I am deleting. So if you see, there won't be any input folder now. So again, I resetted this particular storage. In the same way, come to like your data factory, reschedule, meaning change the timing. Click REST API schedule, and now that we just try to schedule our pipeline at 2 o'clock 1 minute, but now the time is 2 o'clock 4 minutes. I want to run my pipeline at 2 o'clock 6 minutes. Or 2 o'clock 7 minutes. Safer side, you can put 2 o'clock 7 minutes. Click OK. Click OK. Okay. Then just say here publish on. Publish on. See, publishing is not completed. It is publishing deployed 2 of 2 resources. So publishing is completed. What is time in UTC? You can see here. We schedule our pipeline to run at 2:07. But now the time is still 2:05, so it will take again 2 more minutes to run. So this time when our pipeline run, so our pipeline is going to load data as .csv file, not a .txt file. Okay, that is depends on your requirement. You can put .csv or .txt. So fine. Now again we need to wait for 2 minutes, then only we can able to see this pipeline run. Will your pipeline run even we are in offline? See, it's not in your local system. It is everything is happening in your cloud. Everything is happening in cloud. So you scheduled, you log out or you wherever you go, pipeline will run daily. Okay, Srinath, clear? So Srinath question is, will your pipeline run even we are in offline? Because it's not dependent on our local system. It is completely in cloud. Okay, so you can just schedule it and you can leave. Then it will run as per your schedule. Okay, clear, Srinath?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. So next, yeah. So few more things I wanted to discuss. Yesterday we have seen user properties, how you can see those user properties and all those things. So once this pipeline ran, next time when I'm running this pipeline, I will show you how you can use user properties. I don't know how many of you missed yesterday's session. In yesterday's session, even we have seen how you can use this user properties. Okay, so it is very easy, very helpful as well. Very okay. If you use user properties, these are very helpful when you are monitoring your pipeline. So that I will discuss again. Click on monitor tab now. So pipeline should run. See now it is in progress. It is running our pipeline. So but we just rescheduled to run our pipeline at 2:07. So it's in UTC we scheduled, but here it is showing in IST. Now just refresh this. Go inside pipeline to see copy activity, whether it is queued or whether it's running. It is again queued. Okay, no issue. When particular service is not getting enough resources, it will be queued. Okay. So if we use user properties, here you can able to see all the details. So user properties basically it will give you some information such as from what is the folder path, from which folder path you are reading the data. So into which folder path you are loading this data, so that input and output details, this user properties will generate automatically and it will display here. So whenever your pipeline is running, you can able to see user properties. From user properties, you can able to understand, okay, from where to where you are moving the data. See, your pipeline is succeeded now. If it is succeeded means, again come to storage, refresh this, go inside this input container. You see, this is the file. Now the extension of this file is .csv. Okay, this should be clear. Okay, everybody is clear with this. Okay, I hope everybody is clear on this. Now come back to your pipeline. Click on author. Okay. Let me show you again with with user properties. Okay, I will reschedule our pipeline again. For that, again, let me delete this file. Okay. Okay. So how these user properties are useful, you can able to understand. See, you don't have any input. Again, I am coming back to ADF. So come to user properties, just click auto generate, automatically it will generate for you. So it is just giving destination. Why only destination? Because this particular REST API means you don't have REST API like particular path. So basically URL, you are just going to make a REST API call. This will give you the data, but where this data you are loading, you can see this data is loading into global/input. So when you just publish, like let me just re-trigger again, new/edit. I want to reschedule this. I want to reschedule this one to run at 3 o'clock, like 2 o'clock 11 seconds. Okay, 11 minutes. 2 o'clock 11 minutes. I want to run. Click OK. Click OK. Then publish on. Click publish. So 54 seconds left. So within this time, our pipeline should publish. Then our pipeline will run. So anyhow, our pipeline will be able to publish within this time. No issue. So publishing is completed. Let's come down. So just we have 30 seconds left, I guess. Yeah, exactly. We have 30 seconds left. So exactly within 30 seconds, again our pipeline will run. Okay, if anybody don't know how to like compare between UTC and IST, what you need to do, come here. You can say IST to UTC time. You just click on IST to UTC converters. Here you can able to see in IST if the time is 6 a.m. Here what is the time? It's a midnight for them. Next, if the time is 10 a.m. for us, for them 4:30 a.m. Okay, something like that. You can now you refresh, pipeline should run by now. See, pipeline started running. REST API to blob. Okay, this pipeline will succeed in somehow. See, it is finished within 7 seconds. Now come to storage. Refresh this. So first, you can see input folder. Inside that, you can able to see file with .csv. First step is done. The second, come to ADF pipeline, go inside this particular pipeline. I will show you the difference. Now just come here, you can see user properties. Click on this to understand what is your destination. Your destination is your loading data into global/input. So I want to keep my pipeline something like this. Okay, with this, I'm done with our first pipeline. So I will go and show you how you can implement your second pipeline. That is nothing but you need to read data from this input folder, and after maybe you can do 1 or 2 transformation, because our intention is not to do the transformation, but we have done already like data quality framework we have implemented in Spark. We separated our duplicate records and we have separated unique records. We have separated all bad records such as duplicate records, date format, like incorrect date format records, and null value records. Also type of bad records we kept it in another data frame, and all good records we kept it in another data frame, and then we implemented auditing. So all these things we have done as part of our Spark training. Okay, so now what happens is, now I'm not focusing on the transformation. Instead of that, so we will read this input folder data, and then what I wanted to do then, and then I want to add some extra column to it. Finally, final output, I will write it into the output. So now I have an input and I have a CSV format file. Now this particular input folder data, whatever data I have under this input folder, the data I will read and I will process it, then I will write it into my output folder. Okay, so this is my second step that I'm going to. First pipeline is loading data here. First pipeline is simply loading data into your input. Now what I'm doing is I'm just going to take data from input folder. The CSV files I will read and I will process it. I will write my data back to output folder in same format, because if it is CSV format, then only you can able to read. But mostly people will prefer what? Parquet. So we also discussed Parquet is the better. Okay. Next. So for this, what we need is we need to open our Azure Databricks to implement your second pipeline. Okay. Go to your tab, your Azure Databricks, just Databricks here. Click on go to resource. Click on launch workspace. Okay. So by using Azure Active Directory authentication, it will log in. Okay. So now click on clusters. Okay. So we don't have cluster. If you want to do anything, we need a cluster. Just create cluster. So cluster name, as we know, we already discussed all of this. Cluster mode, we have standard, high concurrency, and single mode. So high concurrency means, so when you have multiple jobs to execute parallelly, you can go with high concurrency. If you have multiple jobs you want to execute in sequentially, then you can go with standard. Single node means one server will act as both server, like both worker node and driver node. If you go with high concurrency, you can see you have a separate worker node, separate driver node. If you go with the standard, you have a separate worker node, separate driver node. But if you go with the single node, you will have a single node which is going to act as a both. Now, as it is single server, you don't have auto scaling option. But if you go with the standard, you can able to see auto scaling option. All these things we discussed. Let me go and create the single node cluster. So single node, with single node, I am creating the cluster. Okay. This particular cluster will be terminated if I am not submitting any job for 60 minutes. If I'm not submitting any job for about 60 minutes, then my cluster will terminate automatically. Okay, just click create cluster. Okay, runtime also we have seen runtime we are using is 7.0, but we have latest version, we would have selected that. Anything is fine. Okay, above 6.0 that is okay, but you try to use always latest runtime. Runtime is nothing but the core components that we are installing on these servers. Okay, example, if you select ML runtime, then all machine learning modules will be installed on the server. If you select genomics, all biomedical data related modules will be installed on the server. Okay, fine. Now, this is our, we are creating the server. Now, just come to workspace. Here, let me create my folder. One folder I will create here. Create folder called project 2. Okay, create folder. In this project 2, so let's click here, create. So what I want to create, I want to create a one notebook. So I will create one notebook for mount blob storage, mount blob storage, mount blob storage. So I'm mounting blob storage. Mounting is nothing but you are attaching that storage with Azure Databricks so that you can able to access it. So next, this is my Python, and you can see this is my cluster. On this cluster, I will use this cluster to attach my blob storage on Azure Databricks. Click here. So we mostly going with Python, so let's go with Python. But Scala, you can go with Scala. Both are very easy. Okay, in any language you can use. Okay, Python created. Now, so here I will just bring all my code which is required for mounting blob storage on Databricks. For that, come here, and if you don't know, you just what you need to do, you can search here how to mount blob storage from Databricks. You will see a documentation. You can see docs.databricks.com. Go to documentation. Come down. You can see this is the code for mounting. In Python, this is the code. In Scala, this is the code. Let's go with Python. Select Python, then select here, click copy. So I copied all this code. Where I need to put all this code, I will put all this code in this notebook. Okay. So I kept all this code here. This is my mount code. So, but if you look at here, I need to replace few more things here. What are those? Let me discuss. So you can see, let's come back to your documentation. You can see here, there is something called config key. For that, you can see config key can be either of this. It can be a this, or it can be a this. You can use any of this, but I will go and use this one. I will go and use fs.azure.account.key storage account.blob.code.windows.net. Okay. Now, next thing, just bring this instead of config key. I will just put that. Okay, I'm replacing. You can see. Once we have all these things, now I need to enter my username and password, like all the blob related credentials I need to enter. For that, come here, which blob storage, from which blob storage you want to read. That particular blob storage I need to attach here. I need to mount it. For that, come here. So you will come back, click on go to resource. This is my storage account name. Take the storage account name, take the storage account name, go to code. You replace wherever you see a storage account name. This is one of the storage account name I'm seeing. Replace that. Next, you see your storage account name. Replace them. These are the two places you need to replace with your storage account name. Now, you can see next something called this is going to be your password. You need to put this password, but this password you can read it from your key vault that we will see. But for now, let me hard code it. Okay, so for that you need to create a scope, all this thing that I will discuss. But now let me just enter my key manually. Okay, come here, come to access this. In real time, we won't hard code this particular key. We will use the key vault that I will discuss. Okay, time permits, today only we will discuss that. So you can key here. Next, you can see a container name. So which folder should be accessible, which folder you want to attach to Azure Databricks. I want to attach, go inside overview. In this particular blob storage, I want to attach this container. If you attach this container, whatever subfolders we have inside this folder, whatever files we have inside this container, all those are accessible from Azure Databricks. So I want to mount, I want to attach this folder, this container. Take that name and replace your container name as well as replace your mount name. Okay, let's create it. So I'm going to run it. For that, you just attach this particular notebook to your cluster. Where is that cluster? So sometimes it will not appear. If it is not appear, you just refresh it, but it is appearing now for me. Just select it, confirm. Now I want to run. What is the shortcut to run? We already discussed. You can use here, you can see shift plus enter to run, or you can click here to run cell. So this is how you are going to mount it. Mount is nothing but you are going to do only once. Mounting you are going to do only once, friends. Okay, so mounting, once we attach it, you no need to execute this code again and again for mounting. Okay, only one time. It is running. So true means we are able to successfully mount the storage, meaning this is the mount point you need. Okay, take this mount point. Now I want to create another notebook in this project. Create notebook. This is blob read write. Okay, we are going to see blob data read write. Okay, this is my notebook name. So in Python only we are doing from the beginning. This is the cluster created. So as I said, if you want to read any data, this is a mount point. So from where you want to read data, come here notebook. You know, my REST API is going to load data into input inside global. There is a folder called input. In that I have a CSV files. For that you need to put here. You need to read input folder. For that put input. So this is going to be your source path. Okay. Now, as we discussed, where I want to load this data, again take this. I want to load this data. It's nothing but a loading data is nothing but destination path. So where we will load this data, instead of input, I will have a output path here. Okay, next. This input folder, I want, so input folder, what type of file we will have? CSV, as we discussed. So CSV files, how we will read? There are two syntaxes we discussed: spark.read.csv, and you can give the location from which location it should read data. And one more thing, as I said, whenever you are reading CSV file, writing CSV file, mandatory thing is header equal to true. You need to put df equal to this. Now I want to read all the data here. Just to say df dot show all actions, df dot count, df dot all those things we discussed. Now you see these are 4 columns, but along with these 4 columns, I want to add one extra column. Okay, so let it be. Okay, now I don't want to like df we have on this df. I want to add one extra column, that is with column. This may be some location. We can consider it as a something Bangalore. So this Bangalore is a literal value, constant value. You need to put it inside this particular lit function. Lit will take the lit is the function you need to use whenever you are defining literal values. So df1 dot show, but it will throw error because lit is a function that you need to import explicitly. How will import? From pyspark.sql.function. So we discussed about Python modules or packages. Okay, so if you understand that, you can able to understand this. Now I want to run and see whether my extra column added to it or not. You can see here my extra column is added Bangalore, but where is the Bangalore for first column? You can see it came here as the length of this is very big. Okay, so if you want to see this in another way properly, then you can say display of df. So display of df. So you can see here title, body. Okay, there will be a bar here. You just drag it. You can see Bangalore. Okay, I have df1. Now see, you are like assigning all your output to df1. This df1 I want to write. Okay, df1 dot write. I want to write. Okay, next mode. In which mode you want to write? If the data is already available in this output folder, I want to overwrite this data. Okay, overwrite dot. In which format you want to write? The form. This is the second syntax I am using. Okay, for CSV format I want to write. And options. Whenever you are writing data as CSV, you need to tell here explicitly header equal to true. And then I want to save this data. In which location you want to save this output data? This is my destination path. That destination path I will give here. Okay, so this is the notebook. If I run, this will actually write my data into output folder. Let's run it manually. I'm just clicking run all cells in this notebook. So what it is going to do is it is going to write my data into here in storage. I can go to storage icon, go inside this global. Now you will see input and output both. See input and output also have. In output we discussed about all the files. Commit will have all part files, start and success for your process information, transaction information. In this particular part file you will have actual data. Okay, now you see what type of file it is. It's a .csv. You can see it's a .csv file. Now you have seen successfully you are able to move data from input folder to output folder. But for now, I want to delete this output folder, and this same Databricks notebook, I want to run it from azuredatafactory. Delete. Okay, come out. Delete this output. All these are the transactions files. So I have only input folder. So in that I have a data. So that data will be read and processed by my Azure Databricks notebook. This is the notebook. This notebook I want to run it from my Azure Data Factory. Come to Data Factory, click on Author tab, click on New Pipeline. You can say so VDB transformation. VDB transformation. This is my notebook. I'm just giving. I will integrate. Come here. You can see notebook. So we already seen even Python file how we can execute from Databricks. The example from notebook. I want notebook activity. I want execute. Now you need to connect to the Azure Databricks. For that, click new. Here you can say Databricks connection. Auto resolve from subscription. I need to enter. I don't want to enter manually from my subscription. I want to identify the services from free trial and Databricks workspaces. This is the Databricks workspace we created. And do you want to create a job cluster? So I don't want to create a job cluster. Okay, we discussed, we created. Okay, job cluster will be created by your job Databricks scheduler, and it will execute the job. Once the job is executed, job cluster will be terminated. You cannot restart the job cluster, but all purpose cluster we have created, that is the cluster which is available in my database. So I want to take that existing interactive cluster. So to get that, you need to enter the access token. So how to get the access token from Azure Database? Come here, just click on here, click on user settings, click generate new token. See here, data factory integration, something you can use some message. So this particular key will be valid for 90 days. If you want to extend this to 180 days, that you can do. Click generate. So key came. Now you can copy this, come to data factory, you can enter the access token. Now you will see all the existing clusters. How many existing clusters we have? We have only Cloud Pandit demo cluster. Test connection successful, you can create it. So you are able to connect to the Azure Database successfully. Now you need to select your notebook, select browse. So in project to folder, I have my file called blob data read write. I don't want to mount blob store. That is, you need to do only one time. Okay, that's all you need to do. So next, this is how you need to do. Now what I will do is I will just run this particular pipeline manually. Just click debug to verify this notebook is running. Okay, just click debug. You can see here in global we don't have output folder. See, output folder came now. Why? Because our pipeline is succeeded. It will get the status, but pipeline is succeeded. You can see succeeded ADB transformation. Okay, that's why it is generated this output folder. You can see the time is 8:1. So go inside this folder, you'll be able to see this data. Okay, you are able to see this particular second pipeline is running exactly fine. Okay, now I will remove all these things, input, output, everything. Now what I wanted to do is I want to run my second pipeline automatically whenever I see some data added into this input folder. For that, come to like your data factory, and this is the second pipeline. I want to schedule this second pipeline. How I am going to schedule it? See, new/edit based on the event trigger. Create a new scheduler, a ADB event trigger. Okay, it's a Databricks, Azure Databricks ADB event trigger. It's a event trigger. Select event trigger. Subscription, you can select this, and storage account. In which storage? This is the storage account, and in this storage, this is the like container inside global container. It is still loading inside global container. Whenever inside global container, whenever I see a data in input folder, if the data is .csv, if the data is that particular file is extended with .csv extension, that file extension is .csv, immediately I want to run. But we also yesterday seen when blob uploaded, when blob deleted, in all the times it is running. But now I don't want to run pipeline when blob is deleted. I want to run pipeline only when new file is added to my input folder. See, I selected here global input, and inside input folder, if I see any .csv files, okay, clear, everybody's clear. Event trigger is identifying what? Event trigger we have created based on global slash input. Inside this input, if I see any .csv files, so this is how I'm going to run my pipeline. You can see again and again I'm saying global container input folder and .csv. Whenever file is uploaded, if the file is deleted, I'm not running. And even if the file size is 0, I'm not running. Click continue. Sorry, go back. You can see active. So I by default it is activated. Click continue. You can see a container name is global, starts with input folder, then ends with .csv. Okay, see currently it identified this is the file available. Okay, now what I will do is first I will delete all these things, because newly I will add this data, everything. That's why let me delete all the content which I have in this blob storage, input, output, everything I will delete. You can see now I deleted everything. I deleted everything. Now come to ADF again. Event trigger we are creating. Okay, now sorry, cancel. Now again go back and try to continue once again. Now you see that file will not able to identify 0 blobs match because there is no content. I deleted everything. Now when something matched, immediately it will trigger the pipeline. We activated. So continue, click OK. We also have seen how you can use the event trigger, event captured properties in your pipeline in yesterday's session. Okay. Fine. So this is the notebook. This is scheduled based on event triggers. Whenever input folder received any data, immediately my second pipeline should run. But when my REST API will load data into input folder based on the schedule. This trigger we like this schedule we need to change. Let me reschedule this timing. Why we need to reschedule? To load data again into input folder. So daily once, but what is current UTC time? Let's go and check it here. What is IST to UTC? What is IST timing now? IST timing is 8:06. The time 8:06. Daytime is 2:36. Okay, come here. You can see daytime is 2:36. Now I want to run this particular pipeline at 2:36. I want to run it. 36 means it isn't 38. If I just say 38, let's put 1 minute to be okay. 2:39 meaning our time 8:09. It will run this particular pipeline. Click OK. See 2:39 daily once, no end date, it is activated. Click OK. Click OK. So this like this particular first pipeline will load data from REST API to that input container, input folder in blob storage. That is the first copy. Like first pipeline will do that particular activity. Second pipeline will identify new files in input folder. Immediately event trigger will trigger this second pipeline. Okay, we'll see whether everything is happening as expected or not. Click publish. It is publishing. It is time now 8:07. It is reaching to 8:08 now. Publishing is completed. So we need to wait for 1 more minute, I guess. So now the time is, so we need to wait exactly 1 more minute, then our pipeline will drop. Come to monitor tab. So if you are confused in comparing these things, you can do in another way. How you can compare this timing is, you can say 8:09 AM IST to UTC. If you say like this, directly you will see UTC time. UTC time is 2:39 AM. Okay, if the time is 8:09 AM on Monday IST, this is 2:39 AM UTC. So exactly at 2:39 we schedule our pipeline. So if you're not able to compare and get this like timings properly, you can search in Google directly 8:09 AM IST to UTC. It will tell in UTC same time 2:39 AM something. Let me close this on this side. Oh, already 8:09. Now let's go to your pipeline. Refresh this to see. Pipeline trigger. Yeah, REST API to blob is completed. See, REST API to blob is completed at 8:09. Start time is 8:09, and it is completed as event. Event triggered your ADB transformation pipeline. Why? Because this particular first pipeline will load data into input folder, and once you have data in the input folder, event will identify this new change. Then it will trigger your second pipeline. You can refresh. So second pipeline is also succeeded. Come to global, refresh this. You should be able to see input and output to both the folders. Okay, everybody is good as of now. If everybody is okay, then I will proceed with our third pipeline. Can you confirm friends quickly? Everybody is clear on this? Raju sir,
Yes.
Srinath,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes, yes.
Shivakumar. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Please let me know if you have any questions in the middle of the session. Okay, fine. So now we need to implement our third pipeline. Our third pipeline is basically, I want to read this particular data, whatever I have in this output folder. The data I want to load it into my Azure Synapse by using polybase technology. Polybase is nothing but basically you have a big data. Instead of loading this entire big data into a data warehouse directly, they have some internal technology that is polybase. Polybase, what it will do, with very high throughput, it will load your large amount of data from your storage to your data warehouse. Meaning you are not loading data from your storage to data warehouse directly. Instead of that, you need to use a staging layer. Staging layer is nothing but, again, you can use the same storage. That I will show you how you can create staging layer, all those things. For now, come to like ADF again. So before you come to ADF, we need to go inside Azure Synapse. We need to turn on the firewall. So we know, so we used to turn on firewall even in database and data warehouse, right? So in the same way, we need to turn on your network IP, and we need to allow all the other Azure services to connect to database. Turn on this, add client IP. I hope everybody is clear what I am adding. Okay, I discussed each and everything as part of training. Now click OK. All these things finished. Click OK. Now click on query editor to see whether you have any tables in your data warehouse. It's a empty data warehouse we created. Empty Synapse. You don't have any data in this Azure Synapse, right? It's empty Synapse. So we'll see whether we really have any tables. So refresh this to check. Refresh, and you will see you don't have any tables here. So you don't have any tables. Okay, I want to create a table. I don't want to create any table manually. I want to create a table from ADF itself. Come here, come to author tab. So basically now you need to implement a third pipeline. Load. You can say blob to synapse polybase. Okay, blob to synapse. We are loading data from blob to synapse by using polybase technology. Okay, just you can cut it here. You have a third pipeline. In this pipeline also, I just wanted to use copy activity. You know how you can load multiple full load tables, how you will load multiple delta load tables. Okay, single table, how you can load multiple tables, how you will load. So everything we discussed as part of labs. Okay, now I need to load this data. I want to load this data from my blob storage. Just click new. So I want to connect to a new path. That's why I'm creating new data sets. So in new path, that is in output path, also I have CSV file. Select CSV, continue. This is what your blob data set for synapse. Select the linked service. We already created linked service previously. Now you just select the folder, in which folder you want to from which folder you want to read data. So I want to read data from this output. So here I have multiple files. So I need to say this file names, wildcard file names. I need to give that. I will show you how you can give. First way I said that turn on this. As you have data. If you want import schema, you can do that. No issue. Click OK. You will not get any error. You have data, you can able to scan that data. Now you have multiple files in that input output folder. Now you have to tell what type of files it has to pick, whether it has to pick all those or it has to pick any specific file. Star.csv meaning file name can be anything. If the file extension is .csv, such type of files I need to read it. And all those things I want to load it into where? Click new data set. I want to load it into synapse. It is synapse and text. Click continue. This is synapse connection. Linked services. I'm just creating new linked service. It's a synapse connection. Okay, subscription is this. Server name is this. Database name is. So you'll get the database. So database name is this. And SQL authentication, let me enter username and password. But we have seen how you can take this username and password from the keyword as well. Okay, integration we have not. Test connection. Connection is successful. Synapse connection is successful. Created. Here, why I have given synapse connection? This should be a synapse data set. It should be synapse data set. So this is the synapse data set. This is connection we created. Now you see you don't have any table. What you will do? Just click edit. Here you can give your table name. What I can do here, I can say hosts details. Okay. So we fetched hosts details from the REST API. So just to give that. As you don't have data, you cannot import schema. Click none. Click OK. Now this is see, if you want to use polybase, last time what we have done is bulk insert. Now this time we are going to use polybase. Polybase means the must and should is you need to use a staging layer. For that, come to settings. Okay, you can see here enable staging. We need to enable staging, otherwise this pipeline will not run. So here basically it will load data from blob to staging layer. From staging layer it will load data into your Azure Synapse with high throughput. So you can see here, not here, just come to sync here, keep it here to read. So polybase is a high throughput mechanism to load large amount of data into Azure Synapse Analytics or SQL pool. Understood? So with high throughput, you'll get a better performance. Quickly it will load data. So for that, mandatory thing is you need to enable the staging. This staging layer can be a your blob storage only. Load data back to your blob. Just use the blob connection. In this blob connection, where you want to store this like staging data, go inside global. So you have input output. Now I will create one more folder called slash inside global. I will say staging data. Okay, just put staging data slash. That's all. Okay, when it is loading data here, do you want to compress this data to reduce the size of this data? You can enable this. But I'm not compressing data for now. Come here. Okay. Now come to sync side. If you see sync side, I have not created table. I said I'm going to, like, you have to create a ADF, you create the table. I just given my table name. For that you need to come here and enable auto create table. Okay, so this much you need to do. Sample pipeline, let's run it. Click debug. Okay, in our first project we have seen we have a master pipeline which is going to run all sub pipelines. Okay, but here we are seeing there is a dependency between each and every pipeline. So once pipeline 1 successfully ran, immediately pipeline run, pipeline 2 will pick. So once pipeline 2 is successful, immediately my pipeline 3 will execute. Now you see, so it is successful, it is succeeded. But you can see I have used polybase. So you just see here polybase I have used. Okay, polybase we have used to load data into Azure Synapse. Let's go and see whether really table created or not. Okay, refresh this. Just expand this list. You will see posts details. You can select star from post details. Run it. Spelling mistake. Yeah, posts details. It's not a post details. Posts details. So you can see all the data, your location, Bangalore, everything came. Now what I wanted to do, everything I want to automate. For that, let me drop the table as well. Drop table, post details. Okay, run it. So I just drop posts, drop it. Okay, this table drop. Now you just check the list. You don't have any tables. Okay, you don't have any tables. In the same way, come to blob storage. I want to remove all this content. Okay, refresh. You will see a staging folder as well. Where is that staging folder? Oh, that will be removed, I think. So what happens is once until it like load the data into Azure Synapse, that folder will be available. Later it will remove immediately. Okay, that particular folder. That's why you are not able to see. But this input folder and output folder, everything I don't want to maintain. So I will remove all these things and everything I will automate it now. Delete it. Click OK. Come out. Select this output. Delete this. Delete OK. So now you are here. What you need to do, come to like ADF. This is my third pipeline. I want to schedule my third pipeline. Click new. I want to create a new event trigger. This is basically synapse event trigger. Okay, it's event trigger, and based on free trial subscription, I want to identify my storage. In this storage, I have a global container. Inside this global container, I have an output folder. So this synapse is going to run when I have a file in output, but my ADB transformation pipeline is going to run whenever I have a file in input folder. So who is going to load data into input folder? Our first pipeline. Our first pipeline will load data into input folder. Whenever input folder has some data, ADF transformation script will run based on the event trigger, and this will process data and write output into output folder. Once I have data in output folder, this data will read and load it into Azure Synapse. Again, once we have a data in output, immediately our third pipeline will run based on the event. So that's why I'm just scheduling again. This is also .csv. Okay, when you have to run it when blob is created. Okay, so I'm activating. Click continue. Click OK. Click OK. So next thing is, okay, so click on copy data, come to user properties, you can see auto generate. So source and destination, it should be very clear for you. So I'm reading data from global output path, loading data into this particular table. Okay, this is how you can use this user properties. Next thing is, now I schedule this pipeline for event trigger. This is my third pipeline. This is my second pipeline. I have a event trigger for this. So event triggers you no need to change because those are fixed. Now I want to run my first pipeline. Once I run my first pipeline, then only these two pipelines will run. Okay, for before you run, you see you don't have any input folder or anything here. Now I want to reschedule my first pipeline. I want to run my pipeline again. Click new slash edit. I want to change the timing area. What is the time now? 8:23 means how much, friends? 8:53. You can see here simple 8:23. 8:23 means date time is 2:53. So come here 2:53, right? So I want to schedule my pipeline exactly at 2:56. You can see I'm just scheduling my pipeline at 2:56. No end date. It is activated. Click OK. Click OK. I'm just going to publish everything. Click publish. Okay. So it is publishing. Now you can see exactly we have done this particular overview diagram. So first pipeline is going to move data from the HTTP to blob storage. In blob storage, it is going to load data into input folder. So once my input folder receive data, event trigger will identify there is a new blob created. Immediately it will trigger this pipeline. This pipeline is going to read data from input container and process it, loads data into output container. Once data is available in output container, that output container data will be tracked by this event trigger, and this event trigger will call this third pipeline. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. Now click on this, you can see it is publishing. Exactly, we have 1 more minute, I think. So within that time, it will come. Yeah, publishing is completed. We scheduled our pipeline. What time you can review it. Okay, you no need to change it, but you can check. So 2:56 meaning exactly now 30 seconds or something. So tumbling window you cannot edit it. That is one more problem with tumbling window. Okay. Then what we have discussed with the tumbling window. So tumbling window is one-to-one mapping. So, but here these other triggers are many to many, meaning single pipeline can have a multiple triggers. Single trigger you can attach to a multiple pipeline. But if it is a tumbling window, one pipeline should have a one tumbling window only. Okay, all these things I discussed. Okay. So click on this 2:55. Yeah. Now come to monitor tab. Now the time is reached. We'll see whether first pipeline is running. Yes. Or HTTP to blob is running. Now you see ADB transformation is running now. Okay. Based on the event. So now ADB transformation is like loaded data. It's not received the status, that's all. But it is already finished. Our second pipeline is actually finished. Now you see blob to synapse polybase is running. Our third pipeline is running immediately. You can see our third pipeline also succeeded. So this is how you can able to automate, but you can able to see all the folders created here. You have input, output. Okay, go inside input, you can see the data file. Okay, that data file we have here. Now come back. It's basically there we have 20.39 here, 20.39 KB file we have. Now this data we even loaded into Azure Synapse. We'll check that. Okay, let's refresh this and see whether table created here or not. See, table is available. You can able to query it on this table. You can see you receive. Okay, Any questions here, friends? Anybody have any questions? Shukma, Suresh, Shmuta, Rajesh, Redmin. Any questions here? Everybody's clear. Can you confirm quickly?
Yeah, we are good. Thank you.
Surya. Next thing is I request everybody to attend our daily interview questions uh, sessions. Okay, what happens is those are the real-time scenario questions, because nobody is asking what activity is used, how you will do copy activity, small things. So people will ask in copy activity example different scenarios they will ask, right? So I have like files which I have not processed since last 3 days, how you will process. So I have two files which came yesterday and day before yesterday. I want to pick only yesterday file, how you will pick. So for all these things, we are like daily we are taking a one session, right? So yesterday also a lot of people missed. So don't miss. Everybody try to attend. Those are very useful scenario based things. Okay, everything I'm going to show you practicals, so that you will have full clarity with very confidently you can able to answer in the interview. Okay. So not only this normal training, friends, you need to attend interview question sessions. Those are very helpful to get job quickly. Okay.
Same timing, sir.